Everyone, and welcome to Flood Theory, where we definitely didn't rip off a rip-off, and there's no canon lore. Now, of the permanent easy maps in the game, Poisonous Valley might be one of the most mysterious and cryptic. And that is certainly helped by the fact that there is a giant metal door right by the waterfall, possibly indicating some sort of otherworldly experiments. But, looking at the lore, many have tried, and many have included, for instance, the Easter egg of the guide pouring purple liquid into the waterfall to make it poison. However, the assumption that this automatically means that the guide is making the poison is deterred by the door. Are we really going to assume that he has the means to just make an entire laboratory in the middle of a poisonous valley? No, that's absurd. However, that is the common consensus. But, alternatively, the guide may just be an Easter egg, or it might be a reference to him disposing of this poison. More to the Poisonous trilogy is actually able to be seen, such as with the continuation through Poisonous Forest. An otherwise eerie map, there are a few things that can be gleaned from this, such as, for one, the fact that there is obviously some sort of facility being built. That we see structures being outlined in the distance, we see metal doors like the one in Poisonous Valley. Maybe it was this which was trying to be kept secret. And this does not seem like something that would be the work of the guide. It is, again, quite faulty to assume that it would just be him who has created all of this. It is more likely, in fact, that it would be a corporation similar to that which we've already seen in maps such as Dark Side Facility, Dark Side Forest. Once again, a forest that has a purple liquid that is, in fact, being technologically advanced. I wonder what that door might be, for instance. Possibly what leads deeper into the Dark Science Facility. However, to the guide and survivors going through this terrain, trying to survive and explore, they don't yet realize it, more likely than not. They only realize that there is something festering deep beneath the world's surface. Even more is shown in the next map, Poisonous Chasm, but it is very little, only that there was a mining operation, and in fact crystals which seem to indicate either perhaps the source of the poison or a possible source of the poison. There are a great many interesting things to see, such as the fact that, obviously, it's a very risky place, but moreover, why was there a mining operation here? Why are there purple glowing crystals, perhaps, is a better question. And moreover, what would these crystals have? Are these crystals amethyst, perhaps, and collected simply for valuables? Or maybe there is a greater purpose for it. Also, the blue lantern suggests bloodshot presence, or that might just be obvious. It's still interesting nonetheless, since, as we know, the only reason for the color blue to exist anywhere is either the technology of the dark science or blood crystals. There is no other mention. Perhaps purple lights would have been more fitting if it was for technological use. Moreover, at the escape of this map, there seems to be no real aftermath of it. It seems to simply be what it is, unless perhaps there is an escape. Moreover, there are a few various other purple maps in the game, Mysterium being one of them. Translated to simply mystery, the only mystery that seems to be in this map is, what is the mystery? Perhaps these torches are, again, significant of the curse. Maybe Mysterium takes place in one of these other worlds, or before Poisonous Valley, or Dark Science. It is also possible that it is the transition from Poisonous Valley to Poisonous Forest, as we do not see anything that would signify a lift at the end, although the lift in Mysterium seems to be much more dissonant from the normal lifts that we've seen. So it is possible that this is just simply a coincidence. Okay, cut it. In Luminance, prequel to Relic Valley, there seems to be a great number of these crystals once again, and they obviously are more than crystals as they have the ability to make things float. But, once again, we have to ask ourselves, what are these crystals for? What is their power, their significance? All of these are great questions. But more on that later. For now, the crystals is a very important thing to keep in mind, especially with Luminance and Relic Valley. Purple and pale crystals seem to be able to be found all throughout these maps, and also a sort of, well, poison again. But it looks as if it is considered natural, maybe. Maybe this is the world from which it came from, and is hostile to the world of Floodescape 2. Or, alternatively, this world has been corrupted so far that the inhabitants just view it as normal. But I believe it is quite strange that we see a landscape that looks very similar to Fallen Marred Dreams. And if you notice, the grass is not actually purple, but in fact a deep blue. So, likely, whatever world this was before the poison had a semblance with the color blue. Now, when it comes to this poison and purple color, there's a few other maps that have this, such as Marred Dreams, made by Crazy Blocks himself. And in this map, we can see a distorted sort of world that is quite abstract, quite interesting. But the main point is its sequel map, Fallen. In that map, it seems like the world is simply falling apart at the seams, turning into a monochrome gray. And in the classic version of Fallen, you can see even less terrain and less interactable things. It's safe to assume that the sort of purple color and crystals imply a lack of life to a world, almost its demise, even. In its sequel map, Fallen, the world is more destroyed, and once again, it is very, very unclear how Marred Dreams and Fallen fit into the overall scheme. But it is possible that they are a fallen world, one could say. Again, the naming is seemingly interesting. Fallen is a word for things that, such as fallen angels and fallen people. People who have fallen from a great place, now suffering, dying, withering away. And in this world, it is simply barren. There is nothing. Nobody. Only dust, ashes, and crystals. One other thing to note, however, is the significant number of trees. That is the only other thing that is in this world besides bridges and boxes. And there is a lone tree at the end of it all. Gloomy Manor is seemingly a map that has nothing. However, Fallen Classic looks almost like the finalized fate of the trilogy, if you could call it that. Unlike its other variant, it is completely devoid of color, only having a grayscale theme. The one moment of color can be found if we turn on map details, and simply revert the map to, instead of a purple hue, a light blue theme. This is very curious once again, since it puts into question what is the fate of a fallen world. Sky Sanctuary is a very strange sort of map. It isn't entirely connected to the purple, unless we take into account the idea that possibly Fallen turns into this map. It is a branch hypothesis, but the sanctuary in question is a sanctuary from the void, from the fallen world. Moreover, there is another map, Cloudy Skylands, which is much more fake-feeling than this map, even having itself light blue grass, and a dreamer. Marred Dreams was, again, called Dreams. Almost like these are visions of sorts. But in the terms of base perm maps, it is not entirely possible to construct any meaningful lore aside from pure guessing. The only real hints we have, when it comes down to it, are in the CM Perms community maps, such as Mystic Fortress, which also carries a signature purple theme. Now, in this map, there are a few things that are quite interesting. For one thing, everything is purple. I think it's much as obvious how that works. But at the end of this map, there is actually a witch statue, which seems to imply some sort of witch-like cult, or something similar, including the very religious-themed mosaics right here, and simply the source of magic and barriers. But it's not entirely clear if this would be the root cause of the poison, or if it is something else entirely, such as maybe a different dimension. It is not entirely sure, just by this map alone. For that, we're going to have to venture into a different world entirely. But there are many interesting things to be taken from this map, such as the implication that magic simply exists in this world with the wizard, and the witch statue here at the end. Maybe related to a certain character that... Oh, 42. But that brings us mostly to the end of the permanent maps, leaving, once again, the community maps. Twilight Athenium is a very interesting one, in my opinion, having a very big purple theme to it. Once again, purple has been connected with Mystic Fortress to be that of a cultish sort of color. Perhaps is this adjacent to the Mystic Fortress? Somewhere similar? Perhaps a similar realm, even. Perhaps this is how to get to the... We can also see many great things, such as an eye over in this area, and obviously the floating tables which act as a gimmick of the map, similar to the floating crystals of Luminance. But moreover, there seems to be a great dark storm here. A darkness which it can only really be seen in one other map. A map which may take place after this. We see a whirlwind of lava, and once again, there is seemingly no exit to this map as most, being barred off. Unless the book at the end of this map perhaps signifies a spell of some kind. Perhaps the end of this map is a portal that leads to the final installment. Another significant place usage of purple seems to be here in Graveyard Cliffside. That is something I forgot to mention. The purple torch is simply reminiscent of Mysterium. Many great things such as an eye. Loop! It said loop! Wait, it said loop on it! Put that in the nice third, fourth video. Cave system. Fall Harvest, or something similar. The one with the Journey to the Afterworld, that video we made. And it's snowy. Which also, wait, that also had a death in it, because... what was it again? And then that with loop is very... Oh god, there's a lot of possible hints here. Something about somebody freezing to death in icy spires leads to eerie spires. Okay, that's good to know. One of the next maps that has interesting tidbits to it would be Abandoned Cemetery, having very religious themes such as crosses, symbols, even flowers, possibly marigolds. It even has coffins with those same crosses, as well as a zombified character, fitting of the Halloween theme. But the most important thing would be the purple poison once again appearing. It's possible, of course, that this is a sort of hallucination, even. Curiously, there is the idea that I've been told about a possible death for each map. This being the death for the Poisonous trilogy, and a few other maps having similar themes to it. But that is a topic for another video, if any. Perhaps this is some other form related to whatever the poison is. But once again, it is seemingly unclear if it is just a coincidence or not. However, Darkside Forest will be much more instrumental into understanding it. Seemingly, the end of the poison is to become a